What's up, Radiant Icons, and welcome back to Dare to Be Iconic, the podcast made for icons daring to be themselves. I'm your host, Amanda Policelli, and oh my god, you guys, so much has happened since our last tea time sesh, and I'm so excited to get into it. But before we do that, I dare you to follow me on socials. It's linked in the show notes below, and to check out my journal, Break Up with the Past, Fall in Love with the Future, your 5-step guide to turn your pain into power. So last week we had my girls Danny and Noelle on, and we spilled all the tea about taking the risk on yourself, loving who you are unapologetically, and we revealed a very exciting announcement. So if you didn't tune in, pause this episode and go back to We Have F1 to Blame featuring Noelle and Danny, and then come back to this one. But I'm still going to say it here because I am so excited. I'm so excited, as you can tell. Oh my god. I'm going to the Spanish Grand Prix. Yes, that is right. We are going to Barcelona and we are going to see the cars. We're going to see Lando. We're going to see everyone. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to meet some of you guys, and I am just so over the moon. But I am also terrified, which goes into what we are going to talk about today. So, our Tea Time Sesh is all about fighting the fear of the unknown and stepping outside of your comfort zone, and why you need to do that in order to grow and embrace your iconic self. So, Radiant Icons, are you ready for your Tea Time Sesh? Because it's starting now. So, when we talk about stepping outside of our comfort zone, I think it comes back to one little word that is honestly dictating my whole 2024. And if you have followed the podcast for a while or you follow the Dare to Be Iconic blog, you know what word I'm about to say. It's trust. Yes, that little word, that little 5-letter word, trust, I think is the root foundation of stepping outside of your comfort zone, because you have to trust yourself in order to do the things that scare you. And if there is one thing about me, I definitely do the things that scare me. I didn't realize how much trust would dictate this whole entire year for me, but it's like slapping me in the face that this was meant to be my word of the year, because I'm learning so much about myself through the lesson of trust, through the lesson of stepping outside of your comfort zone and taking the risk on yourself. So let's start with one of the craziest things I've ever done in my life, which is book a trip to Europe with only knowing these girls, which Noelle and Danny are now my closest friends, but they were strangers at the time, for 2 months in a group chat through online communication. Yeah, I mean, definitely one of the craziest things I've done in my life. Has it paid off now? Absolutely. I've been able to create so many amazing memories within the span of starting our friendship in October to now. And I know we're going to have many more amazing memories because we're going to Barcelona. Like, we're going to the Spanish Grand Prix. We're going to be seeing everyone and anyone. And oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm so excited, you guys. But like, was that stepping outside of my comfort zone? Yes, on so many levels. So, like, let's get into that. I have never traveled outside of the United States in my life. I was going to do that in 2020 when I graduated college, but as we all know, COVID kind of put a stop to that. So I have never been outside of the country. I have never been on a trip without my parents. I've never traveled just with friends before, especially outside of the country. Like, this is crazy. And I'm doing this at 25 years old, which is definitely outside of my comfort zone. I mean, I waited 8 years to get my license. And I know what you're going to say. Amanda, don't you like love motorsports? How can you be the girl that loves to watch the cars go fast, but not know how to drive a car until you were 24? You got me there, but I didn't get into motorsports until I was 24 years old, until I was actually taking the driving school classes. Like, like it all perfectly aligns the way it should have. Because I mean, you can't tell me it's not fate that I got into F1, into motorsports, when I was learning how to drive. You can't tell me it's not meant to be that I was supposed to be a fangirl of the sport. You cannot tell me otherwise. I am literally convinced. So, anyway, but going back to my point there, stepping outside of your comfort zone always comes down to trust and doing the things that scare you. And this trip for me is so monumental because it's all the things that I've wanted to do but haven't done yet or haven't been able to experience yet because I haven't pushed myself to do that. I've pushed myself on many other fronts to do the things that scare me. Like I mentioned beforehand, getting my license, like driving was a big hurdle for me. And that was my biggest goal of 24 was for me to get my license and conquer that fear and prove to myself that I can do it. So for me right now at 25, traveling to Europe with my friends that I've only known for a short amount of time and to experience something that I've always wanted to experience, which is the Spanish Grand Prix, is something that I know is going to teach me so much about myself. But I couldn't get to the lessons that I'm going to learn in June if I didn't take the risk on myself and step outside of my comfort zone. And this all goes back to taking the risk of putting myself out there when I first met Noelle. Half of my friendships within this chapter of my life since I've truly started living couldn't have blossomed if I didn't take the risk, choose myself, and put myself out there. And I know that's scary because this fear of the unknown is a scary thing. We don't like to not have control over our lives as humans. We love to know, or maybe at least my personality type, we love to know X, Y, and Z, what's going to happen when this, and that. But what I've learned through this whole entire process of basically saying goodbye fear and hello risk is that you have to trust yourself and you have to have the courage to put yourself out there. You just have to. And when I look back on my Dare to Be Iconic journey, there's this common trait of being courageous, of being brave, because it's scary putting yourself out there online and putting your heart for display, not knowing how people are going to receive it. I started Dare to Be Iconic because I knew there was a reason I was learning all these lessons in life at the same exact time. And I knew I always wanted, like, since I was a little Amanda, I knew my purpose on life was to impact people through my art. That little spark to start Dare to Be Iconic wouldn't have happened if I didn't have the courage and the trust in my abilities and in my stories and in my talent to put my heart on display and to do the thing that scared me, which was being so vulnerable online by just being me. I remember being so scared. And poor Melina, it's always Melina. We were doing our first photo shoot for Dare to Be Iconic, and I remember her boyfriend had left to do something, and it was just me and her eating cake on her like island that she had. And I just remember sobbing to her, being like, I am so scared, but I know this is the right step. Like, I know this is going to change my life in a good way, but Melina, I am terrified. And change is terrifying. The fear of the unknown is terrifying. It's super scary, but sometimes we just got to do it. Sometimes we just have to push ourselves through the fear. We have to acknowledge it for sure. It's a valid feeling. We all feel this way. But we have to push through it and work through it to get to the other end. And majority of the times when you fight through the fear, it's the most beautiful blessing because I truly can't imagine my life without stepping outside of my comfort zone and taking the risk on myself to start Dare to Be Iconic. Because my life has changed so much. If I didn't work through the fear of the unknown and step outside of my comfort zone, which was being vulnerable online and sharing my story and using my voice, we would not be where we are today. Point blank and period. When I think of stepping outside of your comfort zone and working through fear, it all comes back to that decision of choosing you and having to keep honoring that commitment as you go on through life. And for me to honor that commitment of choosing myself comes down to trust. Trust connects to fighting fear because I have to trust myself in order to do the things that scare me and fight through fear. I have to acknowledge the fear, I have to push past it, work through it so that I can come out on the other end and have all these amazing, beautiful opportunities. Because truly, if I didn't work through fear and just kept doing it, I wouldn't be where I am today. And that's the honest truth about it. I think fear is a great motivator for you to learn things about yourself that You honestly never would have known. And this ties back into stepping outside of your comfort zone and why you need to do it in order to flourish. Because stepping outside of your comfort zone challenges you to try new things, to do the things that scare you, to fight through fear, to meet people that you never thought you were going to meet. Sometimes we're not ready to step outside of our comfort zone, and that's okay. Sometimes we can't just jump into the deep end fully. We have to dip our foot into the shallow end and work our tolerance up to getting into the deep end. And that is okay. That's completely valid and normal. You have to, little by little, challenge yourself every day to do something that you wouldn't normally do. So, how do you do that in the concept of stepping outside of your comfort zone? One of my examples is if you've been wanting to reach out to a content creator or an influencer or a brand that you just love, like their content, you love their product, just do it. Send them a simple DM because you never know what will happen from it. And one thing that I can apply that to in my life is the majority of my connections. Noelle is a great example, or the guest that we're going to have on next week, my friend Allison. I just reached out to her on Instagram. The same thing with Noelle. I reached out to her on LinkedIn. I just took that chance and just said, you know what? I'm going to challenge myself and reach out to them because I love their content. And you know what? The worst thing they can do is leave me on red. Another one is, do something you've been putting off. I'm not a procrastinator. I really am not because it gives me so much anxiety to like leave things last minute. I love to batch content. I love to work ahead. I think that when I do notice myself procrastinating, I do see myself, putting things off that I know I need to do. It's because I'm scared of it. And there's this underlining fear of failing. And so I challenge you, if this is something you also deal with, I dare you to find the core root of why you are pushing it off. For me, a recent example, honestly, would be marketing my journal on social media because I am scared of failing. I have worked so hard on the journal. Don't get me wrong. I'm so proud of it, but I'm scared to promote it on social media because I am afraid of what people will say if they don't like it. I'm afraid of other people's opinions, of them thinking it's just stupid. And that's scary to me because I put so much work, I put my heart and soul into it, just like I do with any product. But my journal is a little bit more personal because there are exercises that I've personally done that have helped me so much. And I just took so much time crafting it and I'm just scared of it failing. And I think the reason why I've pushed off some things that I need to do for the journal is because I'm making excuses of, oh, the podcast needs to come first. Oh, my LinkedIn posts need to come in first. I can't deal with the journal right now because I just don't know where to start. I do know where to start. I do know where to start. I'm putting it off because I'm scared and I need to work through that. I need to work through that fear of failing. I need to push through it and I just need to do it. So I am daring myself actually the next week. So when this comes out, I will have a plan already set in motion to promote my journal. So that's what I'm going to do. Let me know on socials what you are going to do for this specific thing if you notice that you're putting things off. I'm going to hold myself accountable by saying in here on this podcast. My last action step for you guys on how you can step outside of your comfort zone and really confront fear, taking a class or going to an event that you typically wouldn't go to. So a recent example for me is I went to the She Cultivates event here in Orlando. It's a great networking opportunity where you can meet like-minded women on their journey of just bettering themselves. And I had met Elizabeth, who is the founder of it, through Podfest in Orlando, Florida. I went to a conference before my podcast came out. And that was also stepping outside of my comfort zone because it was the first time I was talking about Dare to Be Iconic at a networking event. Because usually when I'm at these conferences, I'm there for my day job. I am there to talk about financial capability stuff because that's the field I work in. And man, I was so scared. I was so scared, but it paid off because I made some really great connections. If I didn't go to that networking event earlier in the year and put myself out there and go to like these mixers they had that I wouldn't normally go to when I'm at conferences, I would have never met Elizabeth. If I didn't meet Elizabeth, I wouldn't have found out about She Cultivates. If I didn't find out about She Cultivates, I wouldn't have made the amazing friends and connections that I made at the event I went to last week. Honestly, it's just opening up my world more and more. So it goes back to my point of just having the courage to put yourself out there and facing fears, because it is going to pay off, because you never know until you try. It's that concept of high risk, high reward in my mind. The more I've put myself out there, the more I have done the things that scare me, the more I have been rewarded in my life. And in turn, I think that all comes down to choosing yourself. Because if there's one thing I have learned and I believe in fully, is that once you start choosing yourself, opportunities just come to you. Why not put yourself out there and choose yourself and do the things you want to do, even if it scares you? Because eventually it will reward you in the end. It always pays off. All right, Radiant Icons, that is our tea time sesh for today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I know I did. I am so excited for what is to come for Dare to Be Iconic. So if you liked today's episode, please make sure to leave a review, rate it, share it with your friends. Honestly, share it on social media. Do anything you want to do. That just helps Dare to Be Iconic grow and have more beautiful radiant icons come into our community. Now, let's get into the good stuff. Let's talk about next week. Next week, we have my friend Allison. She is a mental health and self help influencer. She is killing it right now on socials. And I am so excited to have her on to spill all the tea about mental health awareness, anxiety, and everything in between. It was such a pleasure to talk to Allison about these important issues, and I believe she's doing just such good work on her platform. I am so honored to have her on Dare to Be Iconic as I start to open up a little bit more about my personal mental health struggles. And remember, Radiant Icons, dare to be iconic, and I will see you next week. Bye.